and welcome to today. I am joined by Susie, who is an author and a coach, and you help people transform their lives and bring clarity and direction. And your book, Be the Leader You Want to See, is inspiring the next generation.
I think it can inspire everyone.
That is true.
But it was written with a mid-30s woman in mind. Mid to late 30s woman in mind. Yeah.
Good. How are you today?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm aware that I'm on camera.
Pretend like it's not even there. It's fine. So I brought you on today because I want to talk about mindset, both positive and negative, and what that means for basically career development.
Okay.
So before we get into it, just tell me a bit about yourself and your journey to get where you are today.
So my career started off the way my career's ended up, which is joyfully. What I mean by that is when I started my career, I was disillusioned enough to believe that I could just choose what I wanted to do. And at the time, in like the final summer of university years, I worked with my brother who worked at a film company. And I thought, he works for a film company, goes to premieres. You know, at 18, I went to the Pulp Fiction premiere and was at the bar with Mariella Frostrup. Mariella, if you're listening and you remember that moment, she won't. But, you know, I was living the life that no other 18, 19-year-old that I knew of was doing those things. And I thought, well, why not go into film PR? Because that's where the glamour is. So in my mind, I thought, if I can be paid to go to these parties and meet famous people, that would be awesome. So that's where I started my career. Where I've ended my career, or rather, it's not over yet, but where I'm at right now is, again, looking at where is the joy in what I was doing. However, I spent a good couple of decades and a bit in the middle not doing that. So why did that happen? At the beginning, I did what many young women did, and I got onto this ladder that I thought I had to climb. I was stung because I was fired from that brilliant job in PR, which I did get straight out of university. I was fired from my next job. I was possibly fired from another one after that, and my confidence was shot, mainly because I thought, I don't know that I know how to make good decisions about career. So I started off in admin at Cable and Wireless, which I absolutely loved. And I learned lots of things with absolutely no pressure, and I found ways to help. And so for me as a person, I love helping people. And so when I was sitting in a marketing meeting and no one was making any sense, I thought, if I ask questions and make sense of this, I could write that down. And apparently that has power when you write down something clearly in a marketing document, because then people want to buy it. And so I became this award-winning marketing person, basically because I was going, I don't know what you mean. What is it really? And how does it help? And why would I buy it? And those are sort of commonsensical things that I was employing early on in my career. And that's exactly what I'm employing now in my career, which is just asking what I think are natural questions. But they're all questions about purpose, value, and sort of, this isn't a word, but pointfulness, as in like, what is the point? Why are you turning up? Why are you spending 8 hours on that, or 4 billion on that, or whatever the question is? Mm-hmm. So I've been in private sector and telecoms, marketing and product development. I've been in public sector, NHS, sort of service transformation roles. And now I am in that portfolio career of, as you've said, speaking, coaching and writing, which is why I'm here.
Amazing.
So I feel like I've got a broad range of skills and can talk about a number of different contexts.
Yeah, you do. And do you find that when you spoke about getting fired from those multiple jobs and your confidence is at an all-time low, do you find that most people have that sense of clarity when they are at the bottom?
No. I think they criticize themselves because they think, you know, logically, why would someone fire me? Because I'm no good.
Yeah.
Would be the natural, logical step. Actually, I know that I was fired because I didn't fit in. And I knew that at the time, but that wasn't helpful to me, because it then didn't help me. Well, where will I fit in? How will I know? And that's really why I was literally on the sofa with my dad watching the cricket one summer. My Jamaican father watching the West Indies. Cable and Wireless was sponsoring the cricket, and I thought, again, I was thinking big brand PR, that sort of appeal was still with me, but I thought, they're a massive organisation. Surely I could find my place there. That was really my thinking. And yeah, I literally just started out as effectively a secretary, but I got on with people, I helped people, and I learned a lot through doing that.
Yeah.
So I don't think you know when it happens, but if you've got a desire to make sense of it, rather than sort of fuel yourself with more reasons why you're not good enough, then that's obviously going to be more helpful in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And you spoke about purpose, and there's a section in your book that spoke to me quite prevalently, and it was about when you don't know the path that you're choosing and you're on this sort of corporate ladder, and because you haven't really got a vision for yourself, you are grateful for the vision that others have for you. So they'll say, oh, you should go for that job. Oh, you should take that promotion. Yeah. And rather than actually thinking about what it is that you want, you're so grateful to have that opportunity and get that one rung higher that you just go, okay, great, I'll do it.
And I think it's even more than that, you know. I think it's our fragile ego first that responds and goes, someone believes in me. And so that fragile ego isn't thinking they're trying to pigeonhole me. Their vision is so limited that they see me in a job like that. I don't think so. You know, you're not thinking like that. You just go, oh, all right then. You know, pant. Let me just sort of please other people. And we also don't have in us, I don't think generally, say it's an 80-20 rule, 80% of us, especially women, don't go around thinking they don't have to say yes.
Yeah.
And if they entertain the idea of saying no, they would immediately cancel that out with, but then that's really ungrateful. And if I say no to this, what will that exclude me from in the future?
Yeah.
And so people don't generally think it's okay to ask. And I firmly believe that if you only get those moments when you haven't marketed yourself effectively beforehand. So, you know, if I look at myself and my career, I was working really, really hard at what I was currently doing. So I was teaching people that the only place I could go next was the next step up.
Yeah.
And it was when I was, you know, I was effectively a product marketing assistant, and then I was a product manager, and then I was head of the product team, and it's like, well, where can you go next? Director of marketing. I didn't want to be that. It wasn't attractive to me. It was too small. But if you're constantly only playing in your current arena in terms of context, no one else is going to have imagination for you. You've got to put your hand up and start asking other arena managers or just people that do different jobs. What do you do? How do you spend your day? What's your favourite part of the week? And we just don't do that. Even when we apply for new jobs now, we don't do proper due diligence. We don't go and live a day in that life before we effectively marry. You know, we wouldn't marry someone that we hadn't checked out first in a number of different, you know, like health, social, all those things. Like, do I want to be with these people on a Friday night?
Yeah.
Do I want to sit there late at night helping people? You know, are these my people? Is there purpose of the business, is it one that I care about enough? You know, we don't.
Do the company values align?
Yeah, all of that stuff, and that's not the stuff that they're going to tell you in the interview, because they probably haven't even thought about it. It's not that they're hiding it; they just haven't thought about it. But I think that if we can show up in that way, we will leave some sort of a gift behind that will help other people ask those questions in the future. Maybe they'll interview differently. Maybe they'll write specs differently. Who knows? Yeah, absolutely. So what does it take then to get off that corporate ladder and stop saying yes and being grateful? And, you know, how did you make that transition? I mean, quite often it's because you've made a number of big decisions and you still haven't reached one that makes you feel elated. You know, I worked hard and I went I did all this stuff that I'm describing, but I still felt flat. You know, I was earning over 100,000 in my 20s. I had the job title. I went to all the restaurants that opened in London within a month. I was having amazing holidays, and I was still just flat, bored, not riveted, wasn't in the relationship that I wanted, wasn't living where I wanted. And I couldn't see the distance from where I was now and the future that I wanted as steppable. You know, like if you think about when I run a retreat and people come and they want something that's vastly different to what they want today, my job is to list out the steps that are within reach of where they are now. So, you know, step 3 is not within your reach, but step 1 will be in your reach, and step 2 is in the reach of step 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've got to have enough self-awareness of how you're really feeling about it to understand that. So it was challenging for me to look like I was winning and everyone want what I had, and voice that I wasn't satisfied or fulfilled by it. And so, you know, stepping off the ladder, quite honestly, was about being so repelled by the life I was in that I physically and emotionally couldn't continue on the same path. And I think that's really sad, because it was only because I had a coach that said, why do you want to be the managing director?
Yeah.
And my only answer was, doesn't everyone want to be the managing director? That wasn't a good enough answer.
No.
And the bottom line is, if she'd asked me things that I would ask a person now, like, do you want to spend 12 hours a day with these people? Do you prefer leaving your child to going to that place? You know, a woman that's thriving in her career loves leaving the child for the thing that she's going away to, because they know that they're leaving that place and coming back to the child a much better person than if they went to a job that they didn't like and they weren't fulfilled by, and they weren't teaching anyone in, and they weren't getting enriched on a daily basis. That means you can't enrich the child that you're coming back to. So stepping off the corporate ladder isn't a straightforward decision. There's always some assessment, but it has to start with awareness. So people think it's about knowing clearly what you want. You don't know what you want until you know who you are and what's stopping you from taking actions that are going to move you in that direction. You don't even need to know the direction.
Yeah.
Because your motivation could be just away from where you are, but not straight into another thing that looks vastly like the thing you just left, which is what people tend to do.
Yeah, they do. And I think part of your book as well, it's I really enjoyed it, but I did find that it hits to the bone, because it does make you self-reflect and almost get in touch with how you're feeling and why you're feeling that way, which I guess is the first step to making that change. Yeah. Was that the intention?
Absolutely. So anyone that's worked with me knows that voice. And anyone who I've probably had 100 messages since the book has come out from people I don't know saying, I felt like you were talking directly to me. And when you're taught to write a book and taught to market, actually, you're taught to do it to one person, and that one person was the woman of that mid to late 30s age who was where I was, that needs me. They need me. They have to have me tell them that. Otherwise, they're going to go through all the pain and all the cost. And you know, that's emotional cost, but sometimes financial cost, sometimes physical cost, sometimes relationships cost. I'm sure some of my relationships died because of those things. I mean, they were probably worthy of death anyway, right? But, you know, they died because I was so unhappy, deeply, deeply unhappy. So yes, it was intentional to talk to people like that, but to say, look, I'm only asking you this because I am on your team. I am going to get you through to the end of this journey. Yeah. But let's be honest now, so we save ourselves all the energy. Yeah, absolutely. And it also talks about comparisons and how damaging that can be. Yeah. Because it's really easy, isn't it, to look at someone else's life and think, oh, that's what I want, I'll just do it. But lives are not the same. There's different sets of circumstances. So, you know, shouldn't compare yourself to others. No, you shouldn't. And it's it's hardly ever helpful in the sense that there's something about that person that draws you into that comparison. But then we get lost in that thing and we forget to ask, exactly like we were just saying, you forget to ask how much of that is relevant to the things that you want. So if you're measuring yourself by other people's standards and you make adjustments in your life to be more like them, you're getting less like you. And that's exactly what I did at the beginning of my career. You know, I was the only woman pretty much doing what I was doing in a highly male tech world. And, you know, people would say, oh, she's a bit loud, isn't she? Or she doesn't say enough. You know, it was constantly criticising one extreme to the other. And I realised, not quickly enough, sadly, that they couldn't both be true.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd be like Jekyll and Hyde. Like, how could I possibly be the extremes of both things on every single category of, you know, a survey that you might do in you know, like a personality survey. And I just realised that I was taking the viewpoint of other people who I didn't want to be like, but I thought I had to be successful. It took me years to realise, I am successful. That's why they're criticising me, because they were threatened by it.
Yeah.
And it's easy, you know, when you fall out with someone, they go, well, they were just jealous. It's just maybe, but it's not helpful. What was more helpful to me, but I only realised this on reflection, was that if I had confidence in who I was without having to change myself, and I used all the brilliant things about me effectively, then that was my secret sauce. And I know that now, but at the time I didn't. And I spent 10 years trying to amend myself to please other people, only to realise that the person I started off was the person I was trying to be.
Yeah.
But by then I was using a chisel to take off all the masks that I had put on because I thought I had to.
Yeah.
And they weren't convincing, because I remember someone saying that I was really cold. And I was just like, cold? And anyone that knows me would know that I'm the opposite of cold. But when they said that, I thought, I can totally see why they are calling me that. And again, I was repelled and thought, that is not who I want to be.
Yeah.
But once you've been labelled with something like that, people have already decided that's who you are. It doesn't matter how warmly you show up.
Yeah.
They won't see it, because their brain can't compute warmth when they're expecting
Coldness.
ice. You know?
Yeah, gosh. I think that's the same with talking about positive and being who you are. When you surround yourself with negative people, that can rub off on you, even if you are a positive person.
Absolutely.
There's only so much that you can do in a room that sort of sucks that energy out of you. So do you find that, you know, your personal relationships impact your professional?
Yeah, I mean, there are definite times of my life where I've had to focus more on that than others. And I find that when I start complaining, I must have let some of that in. So it's very easy when you're, you know, lately I'm in a place in my life where I'm living in a relatively new area. I moved 18 months ago or so, maybe 15 months ago. And I don't have friends. And I don't have a network, and I've noticed myself going, I want to make friends, so I want people to like me. And so if they're presenting themselves, not necessarily in a negative way, but they're talking about stuff that I find myself sort of, you know, when you meet people and you agree with them, and I find myself agreeing with things that actually I don't agree with, I think, I know, I can feel the discomfort in myself when I get away. Whereas in the place that I moved from, where I was very comfortable and very established, some people just categorically did not like me because I didn't agree with them.
Yeah.
They would complain and they would criticise, and I would constantly give the flip side view as a possibility that they might want to consider. And they didn't like that, because people who are negative want people to agree with them.
Yeah.
But you've really got to stand guard on your mind for that. And again, it comes back to awareness. You've got to know physically and emotionally when you are going down that rabbit hole. And I can feel it happening to me, not necessarily in the moment, but definitely afterwards. Why can't I sleep tonight? Why have I got that tight feeling in my stomach? And it will be because I've complained. Now, if anyone else, for me, I feel like everyone can hear that because I've noticed. But the reality is I still look 200% more positive than most other people in that moment. But for me, I feel failing fast. And so it's my job to catch myself. And my daughter is one of the best people to catch me
pull
on that.
you up on it
In a really graceful, gentle way. But in a way that is just, using my language as well.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, I appreciate that. And that's who you want in your life. You want someone that will lovingly call you out. And my sense of humour is I'm going to be, it'll be it'll be sharp, but it'll be wrapped up in a big hug.
Yeah.
And that's what the book is. Even though I'm conscious that one of my ex-clients proofread it for me, and she just said, I get that you were being funny at that point, but I really don't know if any other person will. So, I did my best, but I'm warmer than I come across on those pages, I think.
I think I loved the book. It's really inspiring. It's really clear. And it does, like I said, it makes you look at yourself and gives you that sort of sense of ownership, because ultimately, if you do want to change and be inspirational to the younger generation, then you've got to actually live those values. So I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, and I think it's not just downwards, right? It's the next generation. If we think about what we taught at school, I'm 48. There are, at one point in my coaching career, probably about 5 years ago, every one of my clients was 56 or 57. And, there's the generation ahead of us where they're about to retire, feeling like this, going, but I didn't do what I wanted to do. I'm not prepared to stop. I have energy. I've got passion, but I don't know what to do with that. And the world seems to be set up for teenagers and devices. How do I operate in that arena? And so I think that as a leader, we shouldn't focus only on behind us and the generation coming up. I think there's something about, I heard this lovely phrase once, it's not retirement, it's refirement. There are more waves ahead of us. If we evolve every 7 years or so, I mean, we've got a few more cycles, right?
Absolutely.
Let's hope.
More than a few.
Yeah,
definitely. Good. So for anyone listening who is feeling a bit down and haven't read your book, in a sentence, why should they read it and what does it encompass?
So I wouldn't say I was the coach to go from not okay to operating. I'm the coach that's going to take you from pretty good to amazing. However, the book it's not going to be bought by someone who's feeling good. Why would they buy such a book?
Yeah.
But they are going to be the people that think, surely it's got to be better than this. I know deep down, even though my confidence might be crushed, I know I can do more. Or why can't people support me? Why don't people believe in me? How come I haven't got that promotion? Why is every job spec not written for me, even though it looks like something I should be able to do? I know this isn't one sentence, I'll get there. But it's for the person that in the sort of quietest way possible does believe in themselves, but they need help. So it's for the people that this is the one sentence. I'm the coach you can afford and need right now if you invest time in reading this book over a period of a month. And you'll see your own transformation if you take the action. Yeah.
And it is a really good bite-sized snippets that you can read. So it's not a book that you have to invest 2 days to get through it. It is actually written in a way that you can do 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. It's so good.
And absolutely, that was the intention as well. I wrote the book that I thought I needed, and I knew that every client I've ever had needed, and some of those client stories are in the book. But it's for the busy woman. It's for the woman that has been making excuses. If she's honest, she's been making excuses as to why she hasn't taken action yet. I intended it to be read a chapter at a time while the kettle's boiling. You know, you boil the kettle, you pour the coffee or the tea. By the time it's brewed and you're ready to put the milk in, you've read a chapter. When you're pouring the milk, you can read the thing that I say at the end of each chapter, and you can digest that thing. And by the following morning, you'd have made progress, and you go again. And so I've worked with clients for 2 years who now have my audio book every morning, a chapter sets them up for the day. And that's partly my voice, it's partly my tone, it's partly the loving kick up the backside, as I'm well branded, but it's encouragement and it's support and it's a reminder you're not on your own, you do know, and here's the belief that maybe you haven't got in yourself today.
Amazing. Thank you. And thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you.